Okay, so we're live from Interstellar Lab in Paris with Barbara BELVISI. We just had a really nice visit of the pre-launch, which is going to be official on September 20th. And I think it's a fantastic project, very innovative, futuristic, but at the same time it remains a human dimension. And so I'm excited to chat with Barbara and to share with you guys all the awesome stuff that they've been brewing at the lab. So
thank you, Nesma. Very happy to have you, and it's very we're hiding still a little bit because we're doing the unveil on September 20th, but I'm super happy you're here, and so we can share with the community everything, all the work that we've been doing here for many years.
Yeah, so. And we're very happy to support because we think that it's very, very inspiring, and we're looking forward to highlight some of the innovative thinkers, artists, entrepreneurs that will be shaping the future of our society and humanity, and hopefully in a conscious and positive and a regenerative way. So without further ado, let's find out what is Interstellar about.
So if I want to make start with the big vision and the big mission, I personally, and like many people in this company, but you don't need to agree with that, but I personally believe that becoming multiplanetary for life, not human, life to become multiplanetary is very, very inspiring. It's very beautiful if you think of a future where nature is, expanding and thriving and blooming on Earth, but also in space. And so as a company, our role is to use technology to help designing systems so we can recreate the perfect conditions so life can grow. And it can grow on Earth and also in space. And so we are helping this project of becoming a multiplanetary species and bringing life in space. But at the same time, our belief is that there is no point of trying to live on Mars if we are not able to protect life we have on Earth. And so what we do as product is so we use space technology and space design to develop system and product that you can deploy anywhere, and you can recreate perfect climatic condition inside. So we use hydraulic system, atmospheric system, embedded system, everything completely automated and controlled to grow plants. So we use technology. Technology is the tool for us to help life. Exactly.
And for you, what is do you think that there's other life that already exists on Earth? Because it was interesting that you said, I want to expand life, not human. So does that come from a belief that we're the only life or ecosystem, of life, or does that come from something else? Okay, it's a belief, okay? So that I'm going to share my personal belief, but my belief is that, and it's shared by, I think this narrative is shared by a lot of people, actually. At the beginning, we were just one. So like a group of atoms and different system, and human body is made mostly of oxygen, hydrogen, carbon, potassium, a little bit of calcium as well. And so all of those atoms were gathered at one same place before the Big Bang. So if you think about it, for me, life been expanding because it's been spread in different locations. And for me, the drive of humans who are trying to explore and go off planet, it's not because of human desire to colonize. I think it's more because we are part of nature, and nature wants to expand and want to reconnect with other form of nature, which my guess is that they're going to be very similar to ours and carbon based as well, because we're coming from the same thing at the beginning. So for me, it's more like life is just trying to reconnect a little bit. When you see two neurons trying to get to each other, I think this is what it is about. And we human, we're also only tools. As life is trying to expand and to reconnect with other forms of life. In a way, there's a bits of life that is spread out all over the universe and the galaxies, but eventually we long to connect back with one another. That's kind of our own personal drive is not just driven, you think, by a feeling of colonization, but also a feeling of longing for reconnection. I think
Beautiful.
so. Yeah.
That's Thank you for sharing, that belief and that inspiration. And I'm curious to hear about how did you start and how does Interstellar actually does
As
that.
a company.
As a company.
So before doing that, I had another company which was an investment fund. So if I start from the very beginning, as a kid, I was super nerdy, like many of us. I love the planet, I love space, I love biology. I was playing the little chemist and architect, and I was always dreaming, which is the truth. Was a dream of mine was to live under a dome on other planets. So I even painted the walls of my room with flowers. And when I was a kid, but also when I was a teenager, and it's true, in my parents' house, you can still see the painting on the walls.
You'll be in the museum one day. We'll be able to visit Barbara's parents' house and see where it all started. You heard it here first.
So that was a dream of mine. And then I grew up. Then I became an adult, and boring stuff. I studied finance. I was really bad at physics, so couldn't attend an engineering school. So went to business school. But I loved mathematics and biology, so it was very frustrating at the time. Studied finance and starting investing into companies. So I work on stock market, then I did a bit of private equity, then I did venture capital, and then I started my own investment fund to invest in entrepreneur, building super deep tech stuff, because this is what I was passionate about. And then I left because most of the entrepreneurs I was financing, they were doing like amazing things, but there was something that was missing, something more about the technology we needed to develop for this planet, how we can help preserving biodiversity. And so I started working and training myself to understand how to build food production system, which will be closed loop. So how to focus on the agricultural problem that we have and build system where we recycle the water, recycle the waste, and have a circular approach in designing food production system. And when I was doing that, it was at the same time then SpaceX proved that it can build the rocket, and the boosters came back. They can build a reusable rocket. And so I was like, oh, cool, we're gonna go back to the moon, and there is this company with a very stubborn entrepreneur, and he's gonna make it, they're gonna build the rocket, so it's gonna happen. And I was like, wait a minute, so we're going back to the moon, and then we're gonna go to Mars, but what we need to live on Mars and to support the life support system, so the food, the air, the water, what we need on other planet is actually very similar in design to the systems we need on Earth to live in a more sustainable way. And so that's how everything started. So it was this kind of overview effect of using space to project on what it means to live on a new planet, and then applying that back on Earth. And with this idea, I had no background in aerospace, so I contacted a friend who's Elon's best friend, Adeo Resi, and I told Adeo, because he followed my previous career, I told him, dude, I have two options. One option is that you introduce me to Elon, and then I'm going to convince him to open a department so I can do that inside SpaceX, or I'm going to start my own company. And Adeo told me, come here, I'm going to introduce you to a bunch of people in California, but you're going to start your own company. And I started my own company.
But it's I like what you highlighted, that it was in thinking about the economical ways that we have to respond to the needs on other planets is actually very good practice ground for the way that we can be more sustainable in ours. Because I think as humans, we tend to believe that our resources are unlimited. Water is unlimited, the air is unlimited, Earth is unlimited. But what we're really coming into confrontation with now is that it's, that we're living in a very real sense that it's not. That we are degrading our soils, and that according to the UNDP by 2050, about 90% of the soil of the earth would be unfertile and degraded if we continue with our methods of agricultural cultivation and things. And same thing with water. Water is a very much finite resource. So if we don't understand it, and if we don't know how to engage with it, we'll end up very much deprived. And coming back to life, water is one of the elements that is the most important for the condition for everything else. And if we don't have these and we won't be able to cultivate or to build or to live. And
I mean, it's 57% of the human body is made out of water, and that's the truth for most of living things we have on this planet. So water is key, and I think in the past we didn't have this belief because we were not self-aware, we were not conscious that there is I hope it works in English, but there is a finitude in the infinitude. It means that there is here, sure, everything can be on abundance. Everything can be, always there and in infinite amount, as long as you don't break the circle and the regenerative circle. Like if you keep on the regenerative loop, then of course everything is in abundance. But as soon as you break it, then it's not. And so it took a lot of time compared to the Earth scale, not really, but it took some time for human to understand that, and we're not at the point that it's recognized by everyone on this planet. That's we broke the circle, and so. But what is interesting with space is that, because we have no other choice, and it's a question of survival, you need to come up with like super efficient system, use less resources, because the cost of going into space is so expensive. You cannot carry too much with you, and so it has to a very long time, very, very efficient, use less resources, because in the design, the constraint of the it's finite, like the number of like the mass that we can carry over there, like there is a precise number, so you need to optimize, and that was not the case on Earth. So it was never designed in a super efficient way, because we always thought it was in abundance. And we need to shift our understanding and go back into designing in closed loop system and regenerative ways, because otherwise it's not sustainable.
So let's dive a little bit about regeneration. I think it's a topic that is coming up more and more in terms of our culture, the ways that we are rethinking our approaches to the land, to our planet. So what is regeneration? What is a regenerative practice to you?
Regenerative is when there is a resource that is taken and used to produce something else, but then the residue for every resources is like going back into a circle. So what it means is that if you take water, you put water, you add nutrient solution, it goes into a plant. The plants, like me right now, because I'm really it's really warm in Paris today, but they transpire, so they there is what is called evapotranspiration. So the plant will give back the water into the atmosphere, and if you capture back this water and you put that into a water treatment system, then you have something that is regenerative. Like you use the water, it's used by the plant, it goes back into the atmosphere, and then you put it again. So it's a virtual circle, and it's a closed loop circle. So regenerative is really like you do something and then you can reuse it, and then you keep the cycle moving. And so if you think about agriculture, the dream will be to have regenerative agriculture, and so the soil will just regenerate itself, because you give it time, because you have the right microorganism in part of it, and I'm a huge believer that regenerative low-tech agriculture is one of the solution. Unfortunately, I think today we reach a certain point where we need the help of technology to be able to find the equilibrium
and to accelerate.
And
our ability to respond to now some of the consequences that we're facing.
Exactly. It's because we need to respond to the consequences of misbehavior we had before. That there was a question of time, and there was a question of also that the scale of like the amount of humans you need to feed on the planet. And so there is like how we transition from like the agricultural model, like we actually can produce like enough food for everyone on Earth. It's just a question of like the supply chain, and it's
actually
not well organized.
Just with the African continent, you could feed the whole world. So.
Exactly.
but the system is fucked up. And,
Yeah.
so it doesn't work. And so there is a phase right now where we need to transition to more to decentralize and to more like to relocalize agriculture as well, to have communities able to grow their own food, and for that you need a little bit of technology, because access to land and access to resources is not super easy currently because of what we've done in the past. So for me, it's going to be a combination of both high tech and low tech. Together we can bring a solution in this transition phase, and at the same time then climate change is really is really having an impact on our way of living and on this planet.
Learning about the technology that you chose to use, and the reason why behind you as an entrepreneur and as someone that was trying to solve a problem, but that didn't necessarily have the agronomy background. So it shows that it's possible that we can bring our cognitive, like diverse thinking skills, and then find solutions to bring the right team together in order to actualize that. So I'm interested in both, like
as an entrepreneur,
introducing the technology of like how does Interstellar Lab does crop cultivation in this regenerative closed loop like system way. What is its benefits for the earth and its application right now, as well as benefits for space.
Yeah.
And as someone that was genuinely just passionate about making a difference and working towards something that you believed in and that you enjoyed, how could you share like to other people that might have the same drive and intention, but might feel a little bit lost and
on how to do things.
Yeah, because they might have an imposter syndrome that it's not them that have the necessary expertise, skill set, when actually we all have something to give.
Yes, exactly. And it's not a question of expertise and things. You always find people, and you can always learn as well. So I think everything comes with a plan. So you need to plan. You need to have the strategy to be able to build something. So when you have an idea and you're very convinced about what you want to build, and you feel the calling, like your stomach. Me, it was in my stomach. It was like I was 100% sure it was not even in my mind. I was just like kind of like guided to do this thing, and so you put yourself in a state where you're kind of like in a flow and you're following everything, but then as an entrepreneur your job is to come up with a plan, and so you need to be I'm an entrepreneur, so I know what I can bring. What I can bring is creating the company, raising money, finding investors, gathering the people, and so that's what I'm good at, and working on the product, helping on the product and the vision as well, but and so you also have to be very honest with yourself, knowing what you can do and what you cannot do. And what I cannot do is doing the design and using the software to build the entire system and to make sure it can be built. I know this is not my I mean, I could learn, but it would take me a lot of time to get there. Or I can also find the people who have the skills and are as passionate as I am to do it. So first recognize what you know, what you don't know, then find the people. Find the people to to go on their journey, and how you make it from scratch to getting a team. My strategy was I needed to spend time with NASA, to get training, to get knowledge, so I can talk to engineers. So I spent almost a year at NASA Ames Center learning about life support system. I spent a lot of time and talked with a lot of SpaceX engineers as well, who's been working on the design and the construction of the Dragon capsule. And so to understand what it comes to come from a design and then to go to a product, what means life support and atmospheric. So get the training, and then my strategy was like, oh my God, I'm not a billionaire, I don't have money. All the money I got, I put in this company. So how am I gonna attract talented people and convince them to follow me? So my strategy was marketing. So I took in 2019, so a year after I started the company, end of 2019, I managed to get the opening keynote at a very big tech conference in Europe, and they knew me from what I did in the past and where I explained what I wanted to do. And then from this conference, because I made a lot of noise and people were like, whoa, she moved from like investment career into building system for Earth and space, woohoo. Then it attracted a lot of people. And then I started, you know, it was there, like it was starting, like people were starting reaching out to join the company, and I'm starting to gather the team, and then I'm starting to meet with more and more people from NASA, from scientific environments. And then you just, you know, you're just doing it, and you're trying, and you keep on meeting people, and I'm pitching and trying to gather investors, and then one step at a time you get there. Sometimes it was very lonely, it's a roller coaster, it's really hard, you really doubt yourself. There is always this sign or something that is telling you that you're going the right direction. So yeah, but the most important part is really to plan and to be very honest with what you know, you don't know. Be humble, but very resilient. Like resiliency is one of the most important, I think,
the traits that you need to have as an entrepreneur.
As an entrepreneur, 100%.
But also what I hear from you is like you need to be passionate and believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
You need to educate yourself in order to and surround yourself by other experts that you can like learn from.
Yeah.
And then the power of an idea whose time has came, and also of how ideas can inspire others to join the story and to co-create it with you.
Exactly. It's the when someone is very passionate about a topic and then study a lot, and then when you're passionate, people can see the passion. You express yourself in a very different way, and you radiate. People radiate like the magnetism. It's magnetism. So it attracts other people that actually have the same belief, but they don't know how to do it. So they kind of follow other people because they're like, oh, there is a drive here, there is a passion, there is something, and it's you said it, it's magnet. People will share the common belief, they always find each other.
And also what I like, and something that is very much like core to WeCare Impact, is that idea of ecosystem. So the ecosystem that is the natural ecosystem, the one that we talk about in regards to our planet, to our forests, to our lands, but as well our own personal ecosystem, and what I like to call like the intelligent mycelium, which is a part of the bigger ecosystem. So I feel like what's really powerful is when people come together towards a common belief, a common idea, and especially if it's beneficial for the communities and the planet as a whole, and then together form themselves an ecosystem where everyone has something to give that can build upon the other in order to build this very massive scale dream. So I think that while you held that core and you started the motion, other people joined and allowed for Interstellar to be where it's at now.
Yeah, it is.
And so how long has it been since you started?
4 years. So I started. It's actually our 4 years anniversary.
Today?
It was yesterday.
Well, 4 year anniversary. Congratulations, Interstellar. And so tell us a little bit what you're about to launch on September 20th. I know there's some mystery, so we'll have a little update after. But
it's the BioPod. So 4 years, the team right now with 30 people.
So it's the real live version of the maquette that you showed us.
That you've seen downstairs. So, and it's going to be fully functioning, and we're going to recreating a typical tropical climate from one specific region on this planet, and we have like endemic species that we're growing, so species that actually never been grown in aeroponic systems before. So it's like it's pretty unique, and the bubble, the pod will be functioning by itself, and so it's the first time people will see.
Almost intelligent, self-intelligent.
It's intelligent. So what we do.
So you don't need to have like a team that
managing it. No. It's we pre-program. So it's if you think about like an automated car or automated house, doesn't exist right now, but a little bit. But it's intelligence. So we pre-program everything, and then depending on real-time data of what's happening inside, then the pod will adjust itself. It's still baby, so it's still like if you compare to human scales, it's still a baby, so it's still learning. So we will need to add a lot of what is called reinforcement learning approach on top of that, so the pod can learn by the different data on all the different system, and then improve basically the different programs. But yeah, it's almost like a creator that is alive.
Basically, it will be able to get more intelligent as it goes.
Yes, it will, and I apologize because it's yes, it will be much more smart as it goes, and it also, the approach is the more BioPod we will have, the more the entire system will be smarter, because what we learn from one BioPod and then the other, we can mix the data, analyze the data, and then better optimize the growing conditions for the plants, and so yeah, it's really cool. I think the part that I'm the most excited about what we do is not only about the structure and it's super cool. It's it's a futuristic greenhouse and very durable. We use good materials and it has a super cool shape, and and as much as I like containers, I don't think I'm not in favor of a cyberpunk vision of the world, where we live in containers and we do VR. I prefer I'm super solar punk, and solar punk is where it's like beautiful design integrated with nature. And so yes, we do very, very cool design. We use great material. We're pushing the product so it can be more and more sustainable and durable. But the part that is really exciting for me is the building this catalog of species. And so it's not only the hardware, the software, but it's also all this database of plants. And my big vision is that one day, in far in the future, there will be humans on different planets and traveling and everywhere, and they will be using our system, not the V0 of BioPod we're unveiling on September, but
the intelligent, evolved
exactly, and where you just go through a catalog, and like here this catalog of like species you have on the planet, and you go through this catalog, you'll just click a button, and then in our system, the software, the hardware, the seed, the nutrient solution, everything will be ready so you can grow this form of life, and so that's what's the most exciting for me, is this like catalog and
this preservation aspect.
Yeah, exactly.
You guys are doing. That's what one of the things that I like the most also about the project, is that in some way it creates this database and this catalog, like you said, of species that we can protect, and that as we face serious challenges in terms of the environment, that we have a hope that we might not lose, and that we might able to
all the biodiversity loss is I think it's so sad, because of course nature will always reinvent itself. It's been destroyed many times, and dinosaurs and like meteorites and all that, but I find it very sad that the biodiversity we have right now is disappearing, and it's mostly because of human work, I can say, on this planet. So so I think it's in our duty as human to actually preserve right now, and to use technology to preserve what we are destroying.
Ok, donc...
We both speak French.
Yeah, exactly, between French, English. So for the purpose of this particular interview, we'll continue in English. But we were chatting about the application of the BioPod of Interstellar for space, and some of the exciting, new contracts and development that you will be having in that regard.
Yeah.
And just hearing a little bit more how they connect with each other, how space and Earth actually connect.
So one competition that we won with NASA, it's called the Deep Space Food Challenge. Yeah. So NASA is facing by looking at future long-term mission. So the first one's going to be Mars. So by looking at Mars mission, NASA is facing some problems to feed the astronaut and to provide them with enough of the nutrients that are needed for humans to survive. And so they identified what they called food gaps. And so food gaps is like, there are food gaps with vitamin D, with calcium, with vitamin C, because over time, even though you pre-pack everything, the quality of the food's going to degrade, and so they're going to lose their quality and their vitamins. So this is how they identify those food gaps. And so to cover those food gaps, they ask a lot of talented teams all around the world to come up with a solution. And the solution we submitted actually won. So we won the phase 1, and we're in phase 2 right now with a product that is called Nucleus. And Nucleus is it's different. It's a different form factor than the BioPod, but it's exactly the same concept. The form factor this time is a combination of 9 cubes. Each cube, we call them quark, and a quark form a nucleus, which is a physics reference, obviously. And so each quark is a controlled environment system. And so inside the quark, we control temperature, humidity, atmospheric system, watering system, and we recreate the conditions so plants can grow, and everything. And we not only do plants on this one, we do mushroom, insect, and microgreens. And some of the microgreens we've been selecting are very specific because they provide a certain type of, whether it's protein or vitamins that are filling up the so-called food gaps. And so this one is very interesting because so phase 1, we're working on the prototype. We have a small prototyping lab at the NASA Kennedy Space Center, so where it's going to be deployed before the end of this year. And it's actually, there's a lot of application for this system.
And it's going to be deployed to the moon?
Yeah, it's going to be deployed first on the station, and then it's going to be on a vehicle that will go to Mars, so we can test how the system is reacting. So it's a very long, it's like not super long term, it's like midterm, program. But what is interesting on the terrestrial application of this technology is, of course, the controlled environment, but most importantly is asking this question of food gaps and what plants is providing enough vitamin and nutrients. And so if you think of region on this planet where people are facing malnutrition and they don't have access to like protein or specific things, then using a controlled environment system to, instead of growing leafy greens, and salad and lettuces, you actually grow plants that are very nutritive and that can, save people's life. But of course, nobody thought of like doing a system to cover
costly?
It's not costly, it's just that you need someone to ask the question. And nobody asked the question. Like I guess, I don't know why, but this is one of the, it's and so, but here it is. Now we can like come up with a list of like nutritious food that we actually grow in our system. And so that's one of the terrestrial application. The second contract that we have with NASA is much long term. Is one where we take the BioPod and we make a lunar version in the context of the Artemis program. So NASA is going back to the moon. Not only NASA, ESA and the French Space Agency as well signed the agreement. The Japanese as well. So we're going back to the moon, and this time they want to build a base, a sustainable base. So we can build a permanent human presence on the moon, and then we can train before going to Mars. And so if you think about permanent presence of a human on the moon, you need a greenhouse, because greenhouse takes CO2 and transforms CO2 into oxygen, and also grow food, and you can feed the people. And so that's a super cool, super happy to be working on this with NASA. The second thing is that we learn from that. That's how we integrated actually the CO2 scrubbing technology in the BioPod. Because if you think in space, and if you think Mars is made like the atmosphere mostly of CO2, so when we were thinking of the greenhouse, we were like, okay, we're gonna use CO2 from Mars atmosphere to boost the level of CO2, and so we can accelerate the growth of plant inside the structure. On the moon, we were like, well, we're gonna use the CO2 from the humans so we can boost the level of CO2 and grow plants more efficiently. And then on Earth, when you look at what any other company, what they're doing, they're using CO2 tanks. So they're using CO2 that is produced by burning methane and put into tanks, and so they can accelerate photosynthesis. And people are doing that on this planet at a moment where everyone's talking about like CO2 scrubbing technology, because we need to reduce the amount of carbon in and how silly
and that
it
we've
is.
degraded our soils, so therefore our soil is not able to absorb as much carbon.
As it used to be
degraded our
before.
Oceans, so the ocean doesn't have enough phytoplankton in order to as well take care of that.
And then we're like, well, why not using a CO2 scrubber and just take the CO2 from the atmosphere so we can. And so we did it. We integrated a system that can capture CO2 and just like give it back to the plant, so the plant can store CO2, because the storage is the most important part. They can store the carbon, and we release the oxygen. But and we thought of that because we were thinking of like space greenhouses, a greenhouse on Mars and a greenhouse on the moon. And so again, this is how space is actually can drive design and thinking on how you can build product and have better application on Earth. So yeah.
Because at the end of the day, how I see this kind of all circling up together is that in order for us to live in a species, we need this earthy ecosystem. And so therefore, even if we're thinking about like space, conquest, or just like multi-planetary species, which is a much nicer way to see things, we will need to move with our ecosystem because we're like innately bound to it.
Yeah,
and so therefore, like, we cannot go anywhere without having like a mimic at the very least of the ecosystem that we belong to.
Yes, and I will find it very, very sad and it's very dystopian to imagine a future where we don't need to be surrounded with the nature and think that we're part of the system, no matter what the
exactly.
saying.
We're like, part of this
even
ecosystem.
though there might be a little bit part of us which is different, but even who cares? Like,
we're like our own plants.
We're part of
this.
We're just part of it. We're just like being like trying to differentiate ourselves, and there might be a reason why we're doing that, but we're part of it. And I mean, I think there is a possibility where there is a future where we go to other planet and we just go by ourselves and we don't need plants and we don't need all of that, and because we can just like inject the proteins or whatever we need, we can refabricate everything in lab in fake, and then we actually don't need to eat anymore because blah blah blah. There is a possibility of this future, like 100% yes, but I think it's very sad and it's very dystopian and I think it's boring and gray and dark, and this is not the word I want my grandkids to live in. I want them to live in a world where it's like flourishings and butterflies and bees and and full of life, and so yes, if we go to other planets, we will bring life with us. It's not about human.
And do you think these lives, like if we bring like earthy life and we find another planet with another life, they will be able to co-create together? So.
Let's see if they don't do us first. But I don't know. Maybe we can go on planets that are kind of I don't know. I think it's going to be
there's still a mystery to be explored.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe on the journey to there,
yeah.
we need to bring with us our the life that surrounds us.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Barbara, for allowing us to be able to get some content in this lab, to talk to the wonderful scientists and people that are part of your team, and to have this special interview with you. Feels super special. Really happy to have you as a friend, as an inspiration, and really grateful to be able to end my last day in Paris with this moment. And thank you, Maryse, who's been helping us with production, the behind the scenes, super important, and really grateful for you as well. So thanks, guys, for listening, and see you next time.
Yay.